everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 11th. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday on the Big Brother 26 live feeds. It was day 26 in the house, and we had a veto competition. We had a veto winner, and of course, more talk about what to do for the week. And with me to talk about all of it is Mary. How you doing, Mary?
I'm doing great. Yeah, if this was a Survivor season, we would already be done.
That's true. Yeah.
And yet we're just getting started. What are we, about a third of the way through? Wow. Well, it depends how long it is, I guess.
Yeah, I guess a little less than a third of the way through
Oh my goodness.
still.
Oh my goodness.
Not
And it's
quite
already, almost mid-August.
there. So let's talk about it. Of course, we know that Angela won the HOH competition, but that does not mean that she has any power this week beyond the safety of it. And that's because Quinn used his upgrade power, the deepfake HOH, to become the actual HOH. And Quinn then nominated MJ, Tucker, and volunteer Cedric. Cedric volunteered so that he could beat Tucker in the veto competition, which we, of course, had later in the day today. And that's basically where we stand here. Tucker is the target. Quinn intends to nominate Rubina as a replacement if one of the nominees wins the veto, and that's all we need.
Not necessarily the decision making I would have made if I was in Quinn's place initially, but you talked about this before. Even if Tucker thinks that he's going to win the AI arena, there's no reason to give him two chances. So, oh well.
Right.
And yeah,
And his
like
reasoning was, well, he's gonna be able to compete in the AI arena anyway, so you can't really backdoor him. But like,
no,
two
but you
chances
can
is
make
still
it
better than
harder.
one.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Here's my question. Do you think if and when they get rid of the three-person on the block twist, that people will stop volunteering to be pawns? Or do you think that that has been just so ingrained in here that people will still do it?
I think they will stop, actually.
Okay, I hope so.
I
I
think
hope
they will.
so. Yeah. I mean, I
But
can
who knows?
understand the feel of the safety of, well, I get a competition and it's, only two people I have to beat. But for as long as Tucker's in the house, at least, I would be nervous about going into any kind of competition against him.
Yeah, and I think it hasn't helped that basically that how it works is that when you are thinking about who you're gonna vote for, it's, well, this person is lock safe. It's
Hmm.
between these two people. And so if you think that you would be that lock safe person, it adds to this sense of you're probably good even if you do stay on the block. Whereas when it's between two people, the conversation has to include you.
Well, but even when you're the lock safe person, I don't know that I mean, I think almost everyone, maybe not chemo week one as much, but almost everyone who's been on the block, there has at least been one person who has brought up, should we consider them at all though? And I would want to spend as much time as possible not having my name for consideration even at all.
Yes.
So
No, listen, I agree with
maybe that's just me. I just like safety and, not being on the block.
No, I think that's kinda weird, Mary, actually. That's I don't
Oh,
know.
wow. So weird.
Yeah,
Who would
it's
have
kind
thought?
of a strange thing to want. Okay, so let's talk about the day. Honestly, there's a lot going on throughout the day. A lot of, like, conversations that lead to nowhere, quite frankly. Um, and things are very much still kind of in flux right now. We're it's like, in a weird way, Tucker's big play last week kind of solidified the power structure in the game because the collective wasn't really a thing and the Pentagon was like ready to burst. But then when Tucker takes a strike, they kind of like closed down the doors, locked the locks, and said, "Well, until Tucker's gone, we need to defend ourselves with this power structure." Um, And so in some ways, the power structure is way more solid and locked in than it was before. But then in other ways, Tucker has made the outsiders completely even more chaotic and spread out and ridiculous, which they are very annoyed about. But like I mean, I guess Tucker in that way has made it more like a normal season, but in a way that is still feeling very chaotic.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's been chaotic. It's also opened the door for a lot of people to consider, okay, should we consider trying to work with Tucker? Should we at the very least consider trying to make Tucker feel like we're working with him, whether we think it is or not? And so there's a lot of like small, semi-real, semi-fake alliances that are being built and then almost immediately ratted out by somebody. So that's been fun to track too.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We're like, so okay. I think this is what it is because we talked for 3 weeks about how nothing was being locked in. It was a very chaotic and messy house, and we talked about how the underdogs alliance might come together, become the big thing, which Tucker was a part of. But then Tucker blew that up,
Hmm.
and he locked in the collective and the Pentagon into power, um, and so they are now the majority alliance. But Tucker is not in that power structure. And that's where the dynamic is coming in, I think, because typically when you do have this big majority power structure, they're just flat out in charge. They're winning all the comps. The guy that's winning all the comps usually is creating his own power structure. And so because there's a big power structure, but Tucker is the one winning all the comps, everybody is still falling over themselves to try to stay good with Tucker because he holds his own kind of power outside of the actual power. And that's
Right.
where I think the chaos right now is coming in until he loses a comp, I imagine.
Yeah, and it's preventing the actual power structure from being able to do anything really productive because they have the numbers but not the power to have the people go out that they want
All they can really do is pick off all of the people around Tucker
around her. Exactly.
until he finally loses.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, so there is a bunch of talk pre-veto. We see that Joseph and Brooklyn end up competing, I believe, and then we get to the veto competition. I mean, there's not like there's always a bunch of talk about like, oh well, who picked who and why, and what are we gonna do with the veto, and then somebody else wins the veto, and it never matters.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking forward to the one plan that was thrown out where Tucker considered picking Quinn to play in the veto if he
Yes,
got that, which would have
he
been
did.
funny. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that Tucker did get to pick and he did not pick Quinn. Down, did he pick Brooklyn or Joseph? I wasn't able to figure that out.
Yeah, I initially thought he didn't pick Joseph, but then he was talking like he did pick Joseph
Yeah.
later. Um, uh, but honestly, like it's because whenever he talks to Joseph, they both get so broy
Yes.
that it's hard
Oh
to
my
interpret
goodness.
some of the things that they say.
I was listening to some of it and I had to watch them and like read their lips and listen and I'm just like they're just both being like, "Yeah, man. Oh, yeah, we effing got this, man. Oh, I love you, bro." And I'm just but they both were saying like the exact same words. So I'm like I can't even tell who's saying what anymore. This is
It's because
ridiculous.
Joseph like hard mirrors
Yes.
Tucker when they talk, which is very unnatural for Joseph, and I think makes it worse. Um, So we get to the veto competition. And in the veto competition, Tucker once again wins the veto. So for the third week in a row, Tucker has won a competition and should theoretically be safe. Uh, except it's Tucker. And so you don't know for sure if he's going to be safe.
Which is hilarious too, that it's like even a possibility that someone who is so obviously a target has won the veto and it would possibly consider not taking themselves off the block, and not even from a misguided reason of thinking they're safe, but just to try and win another competition and like stick it to the man, kind of, is just very funny. But it could,
Yes.
theoretically, it's a non-zero chance. I don't think it's particularly high. I do think Tucker will use the veto on himself.
That's how things appear to be at the moment, yes.
Yes.
However, as soon as he won, talk immediately went to how can we convince him to not use it on himself? He's
Right.
done so before. Therefore, surely we can find a way to perhaps, get him to do so again. And the obvious way that even I think people in the audience were thinking of as well is, well, if he knows that Rubina may go up in his place, perhaps he will decide he will stick it out. He will go to the AI arena instead of her, and he will feel much more comfortable winning the AI arena than she would.
Tucker and Rubina, as much as, I love the Tubina shippers, they're not Brenchel. It's not like this is a massively established relationship where one would fall on their sword for the other. It's just a different dynamic. But not saying it couldn't happen. It's just not like a given. Oh yes, for this reason, we should be able to convince him to do this. Because if this was like a blood versus water type of season where Tucker felt extremely strongly that he could win the AI arena, which has been proven. So he's got some, knowledge to back that up. That maybe this would be a convincing offer, but I think it's already a little bit even up in the air of if Rubina went up, if Rubina would even 100% go home. So I think it would be almost easier to convince Tucker that Rubina wouldn't go home so that he doesn't feel like doing this, and then they would get her out.
Yeah, I think that they are mistaken in this tactic. I think that because the problem is that I don't think people might come. I don't think Tucker cares enough about Rubina.
Well, and that's not this is not his motivation. Like even if he does like Rubina and would be interested in seeing her outside the game or whatever, continue hanging out with her in the game, this isn't it's not his motivation for why he's trying to win or something like that. Like the way to approach Tucker would be more like, yeah, Tucker, wouldn't it really stick it to Quinn or something if you stayed up there and then won? Oh, wouldn't that be such a big move? So, like, that would be one type of option. Another option, Quinn going up to him, somehow convincing him that they're actually working together. And, like, that would be such a big move. We'll blindside everyone. Yeah. There's just so many other ways. You need to make it about Tucker's story and how this is a cool, big thing that Tucker is doing for himself, not for Rubina because
I
of
agree.
love.
I
Like,
agree, and yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say, which is that I think like the plan that has I think a slightly higher chance of working would be like, hey, like really playing up the fact that Cedric went on the block specifically to beat Tucker,
mhm.
at the AI arena competition, and that Cedric is coming for him, and that if it's Cedric versus Mackenzie versus Rubina in the AI arena competition, obviously Cedric is gonna win, because that's, I think, how Tucker would probably see it,
Right.
and that if Tucker wants to take out Cedric, he needs to beat Cedric in the AI arena competition to make sure Cedric stays in the block so that they can take out Cedric. Um, I think that would be a more convincing argument to Tucker to be like, yeah, you got to go down there and beat Cedric. You're the only one that can do it, because it plays to his ego more.
Yes, exactly. And um which is why Cedric volunteering, while bad for Cedric, is was the best person to put up there to convince Tucker to stay on the block. Um because then it's the person that Tucker wants out and would want to beat. So,
Yeah.
at least that part makes sense.
The problem is that everyone is saying Cedric is lock safe. Um, And if Cedric is locked safe, there's no reason for Tucker to beat him in the AI arena competition because he's not a target for anybody. And
Yeah.
so
Maybe they didn't think that part through enough with the plan. You have to think about the narrative from Tucker's perspective, what you're trying to convince him of. And in those, it can't be the same thing. You can't say Cedric is super safe, but also, Tucker, we need you to stay on the block and beat Cedric in the AI arena so that Cedric could potentially go home if we've already told you Cedric is safe.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't even thought of, I think, that line of reasoning yet.
No.
Or
It also, even if they had thought of that line of reasoning, almost 100% chance they would tell someone who would go and tell Tucker this. Because everyone, or maybe not everyone, there are so many people in this house, especially like Joseph, but there are others too, who are so interested in getting themselves individually in the best spot that they are intentionally or unintentionally screwing over all of their possible power options in order to just be the one to out information. So
you can name Joseph. It's fine.
yeah. Joseph is definitely like, oh, I have a piece of information. This is super valuable to me and puts me in a good spot. But maybe I could get in with Tucker, even from a fake perspective or a real perspective, who knows, by being the first one to tell Tucker this information, not realizing that then makes that information he had completely, I was going to say invaluable, but not that, unvaluable, I guess. Like, it's just so short-sighted in all of these types of moves of, like, the value of information is holding it and then using it. And not like Quinn did when he didn't tell people about the power. There's times when you need to release information, but just instantly outing everything you have means you have nothing.
Well, the funny thing is about that is that Tucker is the worst offender of that.
Right. And so if you tell Tucker anything, it's going to just get out everywhere. And
Yeah.
that was the other thing about listening to Tucker and Joseph talk, is that because they're both doing this, you can't win. You can't provide information, especially to Tucker. Tucker is going to say, no matter what information you provide him, oh yeah, I knew that. Yeah, they already said that. Yeah, oh yeah. So it's like, you're not going to impress him with the information. He's at least going to play in the moment like he already knew most of it.
Yeah, he's either going to not believe you because he has convinced himself of something else, or he's going to immediately spread it around the house.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So good on
Um,
him. At least it's entertaining. It's just not good
yes.
gameplay.
Cedric is still a little worried now that Tucker has won the veto. He is going to quickly go to Angela. He recognizes the position he's in and that this vote could theoretically be close if he ends up on the block against, say, Rubina. And he asks Angela, "Are you willing to break a tie in my favor?" And she says, "Yes, she is." Is that worth anything? No, I don't think it is.
Yeah, Angela's another one where I've stopped trying to figure out where her loyalties actually lie, because she has convinced me so many times that she's being truthful in a conversation just for the person to leave, and then she turns the camera up. I'm not doing that. Okay, great, Angela. And then, yeah, I don't know. There are so many people in this house that if I was in a house with, I would need to just not tell them anything and just be like, you know what? Normally I say, yeah, try to pick up the people on the outside. But when the people on the outside are purposefully or outing information and not being loyal, then there's so little you can do.
Yeah, I completely agree. I like similar to Tucker, I think, and it's funny that they're working together now. You just can never trust that Angela is actually on your side because she is so volatile strategically. You could use a veto on her, and the next week she could be taking you out of the game. And that's not what's happening now. She is with Tucker right now.
Right
But
now,
like that's
until she decides she's not.
exactly. She's not a reliable. Angela and Tucker both. Neither of them are reliable allies. It's very funny that they're like a bit of a duo right now.
And the thing about loyalty is that, because someone like Angela has said multiple times, "Oh, I'm so loyal. I'll be so loyal, and you can trust me," and blah blah blah. If your loyalty leaves the second you suspect that someone is not 100% with you, before you've had a conversation with them or confirmed it or know 100% for sure that something is true, then you're not actually loyal to that person at all. Loyalty is not a fleeting thing. And I'm not saying that loyalty means that you have to be loyal despite someone betraying your trust, but I'm saying that loyalty means that you verify that the trust has actually been betrayed before you just decide to call it a low budget movie or out it or tell someone else or blow up on someone. Like that's so, because there are times when, like in Big Brother 20, I remember preaching that whole season, like, oh, if I was in this house, I would really try to pick up Sam. I would try to work with Sam and stuff. And Sam was a little volatile in her own right, but at least with Sam, if you had Sam, you had her for a while and you could do a decent amount there. With people like Angela or Tucker or, Kenny when he was in the house, or even Lisa, it's like just when their loyalty can flip on a dime depending on who they're talking to, then they're not loyal.
No, yeah. That's completely right. And that's why I think a big part of the game and also real life is finding reasons to turn on people, to take them out. It's just a way to, in your own mind, justify your betrayal of that person or your harsh treatment of that person.
And to find reasons to be loyal to someone outside of just, hey, we should work together. When you can build a human connection and a relationship first, then loyalty almost comes more naturally because you like the person and you want to work with them and you've shared information and you've shared things about your life that make you similar. Now, it makes betrayal hurt more when that happens, but it also makes you not want to be betrayed and to betray another person because you have a connection. So it's almost like coming into the game and trying to make those personal connections first before just building random alliances might actually help. What a novel idea. Wonder if anyone's ever thought of that concept.
Yeah. Well, speaking of two people who do have a relationship, a personal relationship that has helped solidify their loyalty, T-Core and Chemo. They're talking a lot throughout the day. But here's the deal. I'm not going to take you through the intricate details of what they're talking about because I've come to the conclusion that it's completely irrelevant.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. They're not going to do anything about it. It doesn't matter.
They literally spent the entire day saying,
so frustrating.
Oh, Tucker won the veto. He's probably going to use it on himself. Rubina's probably going to go up on the block. We got to go talk to Quinn. One of our closest allies that we're in a final 3 with that is currently the HOH and is doing something that we don't want him to do. We should probably talk to him at some point.
They met up about 3 or 4 times saying that they need to talk to Quinn. Could have talked to Quinn in any of those times.
And they've been saying for days that they're going to rat out Leah for all of the things that she said about Quinn, and Quinn still has no idea. We got to tell Quinn about Leah. We got to talk to Quinn about where we're moving in this week. We got to talk to Quinn. Let's talk to Quinn. Hey, what if we talk to Quinn? I will tell you, at one point in the night, they finally talked to Quinn and mentioned nothing about any of this.
No, it's worse. Not only that, they mention almost nothing. Listen to him try to pitch working with Leah again. Don't bother. It's opening. Don't bother to say anything about it. And then after leaving that conversation, they say, we should really tomorrow try to talk to Quinn again. And we need to just look him in the eye and really say everything we want to say. You had an opportunity to do that. There's the lack of initiative is astounding.
That was what broke me, is that after they did talk to Quinn but didn't actually talk to him about any of the things they wanted to talk to him about, it was like a sketch comedy skit thing where they were just like, oh man, we really got to talk to him again though about the stuff we actually like. Come on.
Tikor and Chemo literally say, if Quinn is not prioritizing us, then we need to cut him. You're not prioritizing him. You're not even talking to him. This is, and I can't even figure out, is it because they really, like, they've already decided they're not working with him, so they don't really care about trying to talk to him to actually make that relationship work, that they've already got enough other things going on? Is it because they're just like, uh I don't know, when they get in a conversation with him, they both just take such a huge step back that they don't voice their own opinions? Like, I can't figure out why they're doing this.
I think they're just extremely anti-confrontation. Like, anything that is remotely confrontation, like Quinn says he wants to do a thing, and they're just like, yeah, okay.
It's like, Taryn, have you ever had a friend who will complain and complain and complain about something, their relationship with someone or whatever, and then you tell them like, "Oh, well, it sounds like this might just be a misunderstanding. Maybe you just need to talk it out with them." No, I don't want to talk to them. I already know this. I'm just going to complain to you about it. And that's how they are. T-Core and Chemo just talk to each other about all this stuff about Quinn, but they won't actually do anything about it.
Mhm.
I'm
Uh,
so over it. I
it's
wanted so much more from the two of them.
it's very much like, yeah, there's, like, relationship problems, and it's like, well, man, we should really, like, talk about them, and then they go to talk about them, and they're like, never mind." And then it's like, "All right, I think maybe it's just best to end this relationship." I'd rather end the relationship with this strategic partner than actually have to
Then
talk
just
to
try to
them.
make it work. And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like if they legitimately told Quinn some of their concerns and pushed her some things and had the conversation be
If
more of
he
a
knew
back and
about
forth.
Leah, who
Right.
knows?
If they had done any of that, I think Quinn would actually appreciate that and feel closer with them and feel like this is, an active alliance that's trying to work together. When someone just sits and mm-hms and I mean in general, not specifically calling out T-Core there. I mean in general, when someone just kind of nods along and doesn't voice their own opinions, if I was having a conversation with someone about a plan and they just did that, I would leave going, I don't know what they're thinking. So I guess maybe I can't trust them and work with them because they're giving me nothing.
So, uh, that's Tucker. That's T Core and Chemo. Now the plan is, of course, still Rubina goes on the block if Tucker
Right.
uses the veto, and it seems as though Tucker is likely going to be using the veto at this point. And so, discussion turns to which of Rubina or MJ will we
Mm.
vote out, because it's not going to be Cedric. And there are arguments on both sides. And obviously, T-Core and Chemo are on the side of let's keep Rubina, but they're again like not the most active people in the world. They certainly in conversations will be like, no, we really think Rubina should stay, but they're not in all of the conversations. And quite frankly, I don't think they're really in charge of this vote. If other people decide they want Rubina to go, Rubina will likely go. The influence that Tikor and Chemo have right now is, do we want to make them upset, or do we want to remove their option of playing the game without us, and make them more loyal to us by taking out Rubina? There's like one path or the other when it comes to those two. And then the discussion turns to which of the two moves is better for our game now.
Yeah. Hmm. I go back and forth on it because if T-Core and Chemo feel like the best way to move themselves forward in the game is to keep Rubina, I don't know, actually work with Tucker. Like, I'm not exactly sure what the full plan is there. Then I think at that point you just, yeah, you got to push for it. You got to do what you got to do. If their goal is just to be non-confrontational, be in the background, hope that they can get farther, and then see, I can't even say and then make a move at some point because I just don't believe that would happen. It's like I think they're so uh they're protected, but they're not people that are the voice of power. And so it's hard, even at this point, with so many people left in the game, it's hard to picture like who are they beating? How are they winning? How do they get there? And you need to start thinking about that now. And so if they actually want to win the game, then uh, yeah, they need to do something here that's going to be their best for the long term. I don't know. What do you think? Like if you're T-Core and Chemo, what do you think is their optimal move to set themselves up for being safe and also winning the game?
I mean, I think taking out MJ is fine. Um, the problem is that like it's fine except for the fact that that like that's only like a stopgap solution. Like that's fine for now, but they will have to make a move later. Um, Whereas if you take out Cedric now and pull together an alliance, like at least now I know that you've actually done something.
Right.
But they cannot lose Rubina. They can't lose Rubina.
Yeah. I think yeah, I do not think that they should let the Rubina thing slide. I think that they should be spending this time building an actual alliance that benefits them. And then even if you can't play this game by trying to appease everyone. That'll get you to the end, but probably not win. Most of the people who win have to make a move at some point and let their loyalties out there. If
It
they just had Quinn on their side and actually talked to him, they would be able to make this a lot easier because then they can use a person who already has some hate to make a swing that benefits them.
Yeah, if they could get Quinn to put up Leah, if they had been talking to Quinn from day one about
Yeah.
all the things Leah was doing, instead of Rubina, and Leah's on the block, it's Leah, Mackenzie, Cedric, and then you're able to take out either Leah or Mackenzie without pissing off any of like Chelsea or Brooklyn or anybody that would be mad if they took out Cedric. While also still building this group with Rubina themselves, and like loosely Tucker. You don't actually have to be like
Right.
deep with Tucker because he's too unreliable for that. But Joseph is there to a degree as well. So you're starting to build this crew over here. You're taking out one of MJ or Leo, who are both actually working for Brooklyn and Chelsea, and they don't really care about that. And so, like, it just it all like, you can have it all. You can have a
And
good structure, you don't have to piss anybody off. All you need to do is, like, literally just, like, have a couple of these conversations, take a little bit of a risk, and
yeah,
expose Leah to Quinn.
bonus gets Quinn more on your side, opens up Quinn's eyes to stop working with Leah, makes Leah and Mackenzie mad at Quinn, which benefits you because it's not someone being mad at you, and keeps you want tension to be in the house that's not directed at you. And so creating that would also help. There's so many benefits here. But they'd have to actually have a conversation with Quinn to do that. So
So the discussion between as of right now is between MJ and Rubina. And again, when it comes to like Brooklyn and Chelsea, who are really the ones who are going to decide this vote, the discussion is, well, do we keep MJ around because she's like obsessed with us, but we don't really care about that. She doesn't really do anything for us. Or do we keep Rubina around? If we take Rubina out, that's weakening Tucker. That's eliminating an option for T-Core and Chemo. It makes them more loyal to us. So in a lot of ways, that quite frankly, that's the very obvious choice for them. But they are willing to consider the other option, which is take out MJ. She's theoretically better at competitions, and it also might be taken out of their hands because if one of MJ or Rubino wins the AI arena, they're just going to have to take the other one out
right,
anyway.
right.
So
If one of MJ or Rubina, or in the off chance that someone else besides Rubina goes up, if one of them wins the AI arena and Cedric is still on the block at the end, how much discussion do you think in the 1 minute do you think that would be a time when actual discussion would happen about whether or not they should take Cedric out? Or do you think Cedric is super safe?
not in 1 minute. It needs to be pre-planned.
Yeah.
And Chemo and T-Core are going to need to be in on that plan, likely spearheading it. Maybe Tucker can help spearhead it, but if Tucker spearheads it, I don't know that it will go anywhere.
Mm.
So yeah, I think it would need to be like Chemo and Tico need to be heavily involved in that plan ahead of time, and that makes me feel like it won't happen.
Yeah. What do you think of Tucker's strategy that he said he's doing of telling people that he might not use the veto on himself just to see where
I
that
don't believe
info
him.
spreads?
I don't believe him. So here's where this comes from. Tucker talked to MJ, and he said, "Hey, I'd consider using the veto on you, but you'd have to give me some info." And she's like, "Oh, that's interesting." Like she's of course would love that. And then he later told Angela that he said that to her and that he had considered doing this. She was like, "No, don't do that. That's stupid." He was like, "Oh, well, I wasn't really gonna do it. I was just telling her to get in to see if I would see where it spread." Which is the same thing that happened when he talked to Rubina last week when he said, "I might not use the veto," or he said, "I might do something crazy with the veto." And then the second he heard that it spread around, he was like, "Oh, well, I only told her to see if it would spread anywhere." And then ended up not using the veto on himself and doing something crazy with the veto. He's 100% being like he is not Tyrioning here.
No.
He is just after the fact. If somebody tells him it was a bad idea, he acts like he did it on purpose.
It's also like finding out where the information spread. There's this thing that Tucker does, which is he'll say something that's not really a secret. It's not like he's saying, MJ, yeah, don't tell anyone, but I might use the veto on you. He's just in an open conversation with her. Leah's there, says this, and then later when he hears that other people have been talking about it, he's like, I got them. That was just a trap. But it's like you didn't trap anything. You just said something and then someone else passed it on because they weren't told they couldn't. Like that's not, you haven't learned anything. And especially because it's not like MJ even gave you any info to
Mhm.
try and convince you to use it. Because guess what? Because MJ doesn't have any info because she's not actually in power in any way.
Yeah, MJ giving you info is a net negative because if you believe it, you've learned wrong things.
Yeah, it's funny. Good times.
Um, so in the meantime, Tucker, he is kind of, or at least he's telling people that he's convinced that Cam is going to be going up on the block. They're like, "Hey, Rubina might go up." He's like, "Nope, I think it's going to be Cam." Which he might be lying, but also like, who knows at this point?
I think Tucker just wants it to be Cam, so might as well just. I mean,
Yes.
there's nothing wrong with just throwing out a name, hoping that eventually, at least it's out there in people's ears.
Hmm. Uh, Now we talked about this a little bit. Joseph is still very much playing up the fact that he's with Tucker.
Right.
And so,
But is he playing it up? Don't you feel like Joseph kind of wants to be working with Tucker
oh
also?
no, he very much did. Like remember, he was like he initially wanted to work with Matt, didn't work, moved over to Tucker. He said preseason he wants to work with a jock that's winning all the
Yeah.
comp. You can use him as a weapon, as a battering ram. Uh, Tucker was the backup plan. And then Tucker blew everything up. And I think he is genuinely frustrated about that and genuinely is like, this guy is really dangerous. I think he absolutely would have voted Tucker out last week. I think he would have voted Tucker out this week. I think he will vote out Tucker next week. But for as long as Tucker's still here, he is going to act like he's the broiest of bros. Oh, dude, bro. And man, like the fist pumps, the fist bumps and like the hands. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's weird. It's awkward, but it's man, they're doing it. Like, oh yeah, yeah. I can't believe, yeah, great job on the veto. You totally did it, crushed it, bro. And Tucker's like, yeah, dog. That's what we're doing. And so they have that whole thing. Tucker tells Joseph about 5 points. The alliance that again is it's not really even worth like, oh man, another alliance exposed, except it was never really an alliance to begin with.
Or maybe it
And
could have been if it wasn't immediately exposed. At least it could have been a backup option for an alliance.
Joseph says, "Oh, I'm thinking, you, me, Tikor, Chemo, Angela, we're gonna flip this game on its head, bro." And Tucker's like, "Yeah, dog, we're gonna make it happen."
Look, I know the appeal of the. Does everyone in this entire house think they're the underdog? Is there anyone who doesn't think they're an underdog?
Joseph.
Right.
We'll
Forgot
get
about that.
there.
Yeah, forgot about that. You're right. But other than Joseph, I feel like this whole house is just underdogs. It's not like they're because nothing has actually ever been really solidified to be a power alliance. It's like at any given moment, anyone's on the outs. So
Yeah.
funny.
Um, you might have noticed in all of this, Quinn really doesn't have as the HOH right now. Um, his allies aren't talking to him about the plan. He's already expressed that it's probably going to be Rubina. There's not a lot that Quinn's really doing throughout the day, and his position continues to slip. He's not using this HOH in the way that he should, of course, as we always say, to solidify, to get information. Like I just want to like reiterate just how poorly he has played this week. Because he took a situation. He has two targets, Angela Tucker. They're both safe right now. He has a bunch of people that are talking about him. He has a bunch of information he doesn't know. And what he did one-on-one meetings with people where he talked at them for a lengthy period of time and did not get any information from
And didn't
them
even
whatsoever.
finish them.
Um, and I don't know how this happens, especially for somebody who seems to know a lot about the game, but like he's just not doing anything with this power beyond like, well, obviously this is what I'm doing, and I'm just figuring out how to tell people about what I'm doing rather than like collaborating with people, getting information, and reassessing. And I think the problem is, which there's been the problem is that he is too confident in his own like reads and position and plans.
For someone who has clearly listened to enough of you to want the big deep dive, mentioned again today, uh, has not heard some very key points that you are reiterating here about, how to use power, how to wield your HOH, how to gain info as opposed to giving it away, how to keep allies, etc. Also, has fallen into the trap that I know 100% I would fall into despite all my knowledge, which is still somehow thinking that I could win a slip and slide despite being 5'4". I feel like I could still do that somehow. But so yeah, he's in that same boat. Very
Yeah,
convinced
he
that he
he
could win.
tells Joseph, "If there's a slip and slide, I got that one."
I
Joseph's like,
love
"No, you
Joseph's
won't.
like,
You're like
no,
you're
no, you
5'6".
don't. No, you don't have that.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I repeat myself a lot when I talk about, like, various tenets of strategy, but then somebody who apparently listens to a lot of my podcasts will go on the show, and I'll be like, "You know what? Maybe I haven't said it enough."
Have you considered releasing just like a 30-minute video of like, look, watch this before you go on. I will not be a fan of you if you don't do these things. Like I will be mad at you and we will be trash talking you the whole season if you don't do these things.
Genuinely, for, like, the last 5 years, before every season, I'm like, "I should really make that video."
You should make
And
that
then I run
video.
out of time and I don't do it, and then the next year it comes around and I'm like, "I should really make that video." But by the time I think of it and, like, realize I could do it, it's like a week before they're gonna be in sequester and, like, nobody's gonna see it anyway. Um,
Yes. Oh well.
so, yeah,
Maybe
I
next
never
year.
actually and also, like, for the record, like, I'm not the end all be all of Big Brother's strategy. It's not like watching me or listening to what I have to say is going to like make you know
It,
exactly what to do in Big
it's not
Brother.
it's not about building a guideline for how to win or how to play Big Brother. What it is do not go on the show and act like you're a big fan of Taran and then not do the things that you said. That's what's frustrating. Is it's when someone is so loud and wrong about their their thoughts on the game. I don't mind people being wrong. Please, I would hate to have a whole season full of people who are trying to play quote unquote correctly. Don't want that. But it's so frustrating to see some people just say and do the wrong things. And I know we're on the outside. It's
Mhm.
it's much more difficult when you're actually playing the game and you don't have all the information. But if I'm sitting there going, "Wow, I feel like I don't have all the information." No, I'm just going to consider myself to be right. What? No. Go get the information. Ugh.
Yeah. Um, so, so there's more talk about just again in general the underdogs, and this is coming from Rubina, T-Core, Joseph. Like they're mad at Tucker because he screwed everything up. Him going after Quinn ruined their chances of coming together and dismantling the power structure. It's very frustrating. They talk about that a lot. We also get Chelsea and Brooklyn talking more about their final two. They kind of made a final two a little while ago, but it really and they've been operating kind of as a final two for a little while, but they kind of more explicitly lay it out last night. Um, and Chelsea and even you or sorry, Brooklyn even uses her like confetti line that she used on Angela
Mhm.
in week one. That but Angela didn't believe it because she thought that Brooklyn would want her out because they're competing for the same spot. But these two, again, the one thing I thought Chelsea did really well on her HOH was hook up with Brooklyn. That paid off in week three, and continues to pay off. These two are still in the best position in the house right now, and despite the fact that they might be willing to lose MJ, which would diminish their position, they are still doing really well, and the fact that they're linked in together is very effective.
The one benefit that I can think of losing MJ is it keeps them hidden and not I think there is a benefit to not always fighting for every little possible piece when you're not really when you could be losing other people by trying to keep them, I
I
guess.
agree, and I can see why they would see it that way, but we know that they do need those pieces
Yeah,
because they're not as hidden as they think because Quinn's been ratting them out left and right.
right. Because I just want Quinn to get on an actual side and then stop ratting out things that could be good for him. Like he could be in with Brooklyn and Chelsea right now if he wasn't ruining everything constantly. Here's another question. Rubina, let's just pretend that Tucker was still in the block or in a future week. Obviously, she's working with him, but I do feel like she has a lot more possibilities of gameplay that open up if Tucker goes home. And normally I don't advocate for that, but I think that it's just there's always going to be a line of people wanting Tucker out that's going to hurt her, trying to use her as the way to get back at him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that I'm I think 99 times out of 100, you should never want an ally and a locked-in ally to leave,
Mhm.
because they're a target from the rest of the house. The problem is, I don't think Tucker is a locked-in ally for her.
He's not
Like
a locked in ally, and he's so good at winning that she's going to constantly be in danger of being the one to take, to cut off his legs, I guess.
exactly. Like Tucker is barely an ally at all. Like he's basically somebody that will probably never put her on the block. And I can't even say certainly won't put her on the block because I have no idea what Tucker might do. But he's just a person that probably would never put her on the block at least in the next few weeks. And beyond that, she has no influence on what he does, who he targets, what he tells people and all the while, she's being targeted directly because of her association with him. And so it is actually, I think, a situation where her game probably would improve if Tucker left. Um, but it's frustrating that that's the case because she shouldn't need him to leave. He should just be working with her,
Right.
and then it would be fine for him to stay. But what are you gonna
Yep. Oh well. Can't trust an ally, can't trust an enemy in this house. You
do?
got
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of Joseph, he's gonna do some of his Taran Armstrong power rankings that he told Quinn about earlier in the season. We finally get one on the feeds. And I think I've learned about Joseph that he also for somebody that watches the podcast, uh I get the feeling he hasn't in a while. Because of a couple of reasons. One, he's a Dr. Will guy. Two, he calls them power rankings and he lists them in order, and he's not actually like rating players.
But I think this is still helpful and probably easier to do.
Certainly. But then three, and this is the biggest thing for me. He was talking yesterday about how the end game comps are mental.
Ooh, not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
He was like, we don't need to worry about all these physical competitions right now because at the end game, they're going to get more mental. And that's when we can start winning. And I was like, oh.
Maybe if they say it enough, it'll come back and it'll actually happen.
Like that's a rough one. That's a rough one. So anyway, here are his rankings. MJ in last place. She's likely going home. Rubina after that. She's also likely potentially going home this week. Angela after that. He says she basically has no chance to win. Nobody respects her in the game. She could continue to win comps and maybe re-ingratiate herself, but like not super likely. Then Tucker, because he's a complete wild card, and he's as soon as he doesn't win, he's probably leaving. Then Leah, she has some good relationships, but she's doing nothing in the game. Then Cam, he thinks that Cam is like likable and social, but he doesn't give people enough in strategic conversations. Pretty fair. Then Quinn. He thinks Quinn has done a good job of getting people to trust him again after the big blow up, but let's be real, it's Quinn, and he's it's at some point gonna fall back on him. And so far, I'm kind of in agreement with most of this. But then he makes, I think, a bit of a mistake. I think he goes next is Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I think this is a very big underestimation of Brooklyn.
Right.
He
proves that Brooklyn is in a better spot.
Exactly. He does not quite see how Brooklyn has positioned herself, which is weird because he has all the information he needs to recognize that Brooklyn is in a really good spot, but he still is underestimating her. And that could be very dangerous for him. Next, he goes back and forth between Cedric and T-Core, ultimately puts Cedric next. And we don't really hear a lot about why. We also miss his explanation for T-Core, who he puts after that. And this one also surprised me. He puts T-Core, or sorry, he puts Chemo, number 3 overall. So he says because he's well insulated, which he is, but I don't know. I mean, I think from what we have seen, he is not active enough. I think he is overestimating right now T-Core and Chemo.
But I think
especially because he knows that the Pentagon exists.
Right. I think what it does show me when he's saying that, though, is that he likes them and wants to work with them and is putting his allies higher.
Yes, I think that's true. Then he makes himself the number 2 spot. He says, I think I'm doing really well. I think I'm kind of crushing right now. And like maybe I'm being pretty arrogant there, but
yeah, at least he recognizes it.
I feel like people trust me, and I think I'm in charge of the big alliance. I'm the leader of the big. I created it. At the meeting, I was doing all the talking. I'm the leader of Majority Alliance. I'm doing really well. And people like Joseph, they don't even know. Or people like Tucker, they don't even know. They have no idea.
What? It's week 4. You don't want to be the leader. No, you don't want to be the only one talking and be what? Anyway, here's what I will say about that also before you break it down any further. I like the attitude from an entertainment perspective. I'm
Oh,
glad
yeah.
that he is the way he is for this.
Listen, I like all of it. I like Tucker being Tucker. I like Angela being Angela. I like Quinn being Quinn. I like Joseph being Joseph. Uh, I want to see all of it. I
I
don't.
don't
I'm not
like
picking sides.
I don't like that he's clocked Chelsea as being so good.
Chelsea number one seems to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
Uh,
I will say when I was making that list, I went over the names over and over and over, and I went, "Wait, who am I missing?" I
right.
could not remember Chelsea for a second there. It's like, we've got everyone. Did we count wrong? Who are we missing?
Yeah. Um. So that seems to be where he is. He says he doesn't really want to win any competitions until like final 10. Um. And because he doesn't need to, he's in such a good spot. And like the thing is that it's annoying because there is a path for Joseph. I think that Joseph is actually doing a decent job, but the problem is that he's overestimating the job that he's doing, and he greatly overestimates his position. If he recognized the position he was in, I would say he, he's one of the better players in there. He's doing well
Mhm.
in the position he's in. But I don't trust that he will continue to do well because he doesn't recognize that he's in that position.
Right.
And he thinks that part of it is like good. So we'll see.
Oh, well.
So that was basically the day. Anything else that you wanted to bring up, Mary?
Uh, there's just still so many people who are just doing nothing. Um, Cam is one of the more egregious ones. You could say the same about
Cam
Leah,
and Leah have cooled down considerably for what it's worth.
which I guess is technically an improvement, but they're just not
Yes.
doing anything strategically at all. And I,
Yes.
I think that there's just so many people who feel safe this week that they're just kind of taking a week off. So,
Mhm.
mm,
Yeah. I did also, some kind people sent me the clip of the moon stuff. And it was honestly more funny than I thought it was because, uh, it was multiple people were like, "Yeah, we don't believe that we landed on the moon." And then Cam chimed in with like, "Yeah, I I think we landed on a moon, just maybe
right.
not the one that we see."
Right. The close one that would be the easiest to get to.
Cause then he's like, cause like we've gone to space a bunch of times. And then somebody was like, allegedly. And he was like, no, I think we have. Like, I've never even considered the conspiracy of we've gone to space a bunch. We've landed on a moon, but not our moon. That one was faked. That one was on his stay.
It's a wild take. It's funny. You know what? I love that. Keep doing, build the moments for the montage on the episodes. Go for it. That's fine.
Oh boy. Yeah, that was going on there. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that popped up throughout the day. There probably was, but um yeah, that's about what we've got. So basically what we're looking at right now again, um maybe at some point Quinn will be talked to and there will be a change of plans. But unless that happens, Rubina looks like she will be going up. There's still a little bit of discussion between Rubina and MJ who might leave. I really think that it's in the best interests of most of the majority to take out Rubina. Um, so I think that's where it will eventually land, even though right now it seems like it might be a little bit more leaning toward MJ. So we'll see about that. But of course, then the AI arena competition will dramatically influence who might leave. Also, depending on who wins that. So stay
Mhm.
tuned for all of that. And then, of course, I'll be back tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, to update you on everything that happens today on the Big Brother 26 live feeds. And tonight, I'll be live on Twitch watching the episode for the first time. House of the Dragon is over. So Sunday episode watch parties are back. So
Ooh.
come and hang out with me there, and then I will be live on the podcast tonight with one Bowie Jane to talk through the episode and get Bowie Jane's thoughts. You know that yesterday Quinn was saying to T-Core and Chemo that he feels like they can pull in uh, Leah, like the mafia pulled in Bowie Jane.
He knew. Bowie Jane shout out before the podcast.
As if the mafia existed without Bowie Jane. Like, Bowie Jane was the mafia. What are you talking about, Quinn?
With Matt and I.
All right. So, tune in for all of that. Mary, what do you got going on?
Oh, not too much. You can follow me everywhere at Frail Mary. And my completely random recommendation of the week is if you live in a town where you have one of those like old movie theaters that plays like older movies, go to those. It's very fun. Went and saw Jurassic Park last night, like the original. Very, very good times. Very active audience. Cheap movies. Highly recommend.
All right, there you go. I will recommend, having now watched the women's climbing final for the Olympics,
Oh.
to watch that. It was very, very good, at least for me, because I watch a lot of climbing, but it was great. Very good. All right. Thank you all so much for joining us, and I will see all of you next time.